Podcasts, I have one. Hold on, I got your mic down.
Oh, 10,002?
Could be. You'd know better than I would.
3.
Kevin, what's going on, man? All right, we're going to have a fun show tonight. Hey, the gorgeous Jordan Ashley Pettit is here. There she is. Give everybody a wave, Jordan. We'd appreciate that. And, yeah. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, whatever you decide we deserve. And, of course, be like Chad. The super chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do here on a nightly basis on Spaced Out Radio. And we appreciate each and every one of you, especially the veterans who are listening to this show. And we love you. And I don't know. I got nothing else. That's it. Yeah, here's Jordan. You got this. You got this. No, I don't. No, I don't. Hold on. 10 seconds. Joshua, what's going on?
Got mine right here.
It's a lifesaver. Here we go. Let's do it. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Bryan Bowden is a man of 10,000 plus podcasts. He has been around the UFO cryptid world for decades, and he is one where, sometimes he sparks a little controversy because he's never afraid to say what is on his mind. Some people love him, some people hate him, but the one thing that you got to admit, his respect for the field, the creatures involved, and what we are going through in humanity is his top priority. Bryan, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you?
I'm doing good. Not doing a podcast right now, so it's not, well, at least it's not mine.
I know. It's kind of odd. And I should let everybody know, I tease you quite a bit about how many
I wish I had 10,000 podcasts. I wish I was getting paid on one of them.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I've been trying to track down your cryptid guru to get him to do a live stream. We started doing live streams, and he's nowhere to be found. He's hunting down the purple butt monkey of Pennsylvania that they discovered on the walls someplace a long time ago. But other than that,
what is? Hold on a second. What is the purple butt monkey?
You got to check out his post. He posted a picture of a purple monkey with a big butt. So it's
I did see that.
Yeah. So I was waiting for the On Purple Butt Monkey book to come out, and I said, I got some ideas, But, no, he's been busy. He's working, and, he's juggling kids and stuff. But we're hopefully in a week, we'll be back on doing Inside the Goblin Universe.
Well, you got to give the guru credit. He has 29 children, and, ages from 40 down to 2 months. No,
5.
He's got 5 kids. He's got 5 kids, and he's a single dad, and he's doing it all. You got to give the guy a lot of respect. He's going through a tremendous amount of pressure in this world, but he's a really great guy. Yes, he
knows his stuff cold. And I've been trying to get, universities. I know some people in university. I'm like, I got a guy for you that can teach a cryptozoology course or a paranormal course and throw history involved in it. Let's see if we get that done, because he'd be great as a professor.
Oh, definitely.
You know?
Definitely he would. Now, Bryan, you're somebody who's been around this field for quite a long time, and you're somebody who has looked into everything from UFOs to cryptids like Dogman. You've had your own experiences. What led you down this path? Was it your own experiences, or was it the fact that you wanted to be a researcher in this field?
Well, I'm always heavily into the sciences. I liked astronomy, and I watched a lot of monster movies growing up, and those shows like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. Those are the first paranormal shows out there, and they were always interesting. And they always talked about, they showed the Patterson Gimlin film, and the Loch Ness monster, and they talked about the Yeti and all these things. And it was just cool. It was just something interesting and exciting. My father worked for Wide World Photos. Basically was the paparazzi. He was a professional photographer, but he sold them. And he used to bring me home these like photos of the 57 UFOs over the Capitol building, and all this Bigfoot paraphernalia and the Loch Ness monster photos. And, you share them with your friends. And there was like one book, paperback available about these oddities. They had Bigfoot on the cover with Loch Ness, and that was it. So I was always interested in it. And then as I got older, I still stayed interested in it. I almost became I studied astronomy and physics, and almost went into astrophysics. So technically I would have been a rocket scientist. So, that old joke, but, there's no money involved in that in the future. So I went into business side, but I never lost this desire to find, answers. I mean, I've seen crafts. The first time I actually saw a Bigfoot was in 1977 in Connecticut, and it didn't register for me because everything I was taught was Pacific Northwest, where you're out of. That's where all the Bigfoots are. Apparently, that's where they migrated. They came to Ellis Island, and then they went to Pacific Northwest. I never thought of Bigfoot being on the East Coast, and it was when I met my buddy Al. I got dared to go to a UFO meeting when I was older, and I met this guy Al Santoriga, and he was, he started his own group called Bronxville Paranormal, and the first person he asked was me. So I became his right hand. We've been doing investigations, but I've been doing little mini investigations on my own. I go into the woods and just look for, whatever the signs are for Bigfoot. Did a lot of sky watches and read up on some books. I didn't read everybody's book, but one of my favorites was, I liked the Communion series with Whitley. I thought it was interesting, and that was the first time that people actually, it connected humans to that creature that was on the front cover. So it's just it was a natural path, but you always mention things about, everybody's trying to be a scientist. I think inside and outside the box. And that's why Al loves it, because I do have some science background. And whenever we do an investigation, I try to figure out experiments or little things I can do that I could replicate at the next investigation to see. That's what science is, right? You come up with an experiment, you do it, conduct it, publish it. And if somebody else can replicate it, then you validate it if that's correct. And that's what I've been doing. This is how I do things. Just trying to get answers for me, but I let all my information out to the public. We post it on YouTube, everything, raw footage, and then whatever we find. And we let other people get involved in this. Not too many people do that.
I want to ask you about the atmosphere around the UFO world right now. We'll get into cryptids a little bit later because,
sure,
it is such a hairy place. And It is full of gossip. It's full of backstabbing. It's full of knowledge. It's full of creativity. It's full of stories, which we can't figure out which ones are real, which ones aren't. Where's the videos coming from? Where's the information coming from? Who's leaking it out of Washington State? Why is it going to certain people? There's a lot of games being played in the field of UFOs right now. And I think it's confused a lot of people because, in the end, the medium is the message, according to Marshall McLuhan back in the 1960s. Yet we have no clue where this message is coming from and who to trust on who's delivering it. When you take an overall view of everything right now in the UFO world, Bryan, because you're somebody who kind of sits back and just watches. What do you see happening right now?
A lot of deceptions going on, but trying to figure out the actual purpose of the deception. I want to start by saying straight up, the week before the D&I report comes out, you were killing it. I mean, you had more than a week before, you were crushing it with your guests, and they were great. You did great interviews with them, but I still I respect the people that worked in armed forces, in our military, and the sacrifices they've made, helping us out. But I know too many people in some of these businesses, and although I don't have security clearance, I read people very well. And I'm getting the sense that there's a lot of purposeful deception taking place with a lot of the people that are key players here. That are coming out with and I'm going to say it, Lou, I'm sorry, but I know what you did for a living. I know that your security clearance is everything. You lose that, there's a lot more valuable to it. But for some reason, I just don't understand why a guy that does what he does for a living is coming out with UFOs. It seems like it's another mission. Yeah, it is. You know what? It's a national security threat. Don't get me wrong, and you want to know about it. You want to know if it's Russian or Chinese or whoever. But too much deception on that end. Of course, you have other people that are associated with that he has a little bit more contact with that have actually been on these ships and vessels, and they've got to wait until they get off of them to kind of come forward because that's their career right there. And there's also jail time involved if you don't go through military protocol. So there's a lot of lying going there. You have a lot of mean organizations, and I used to be a member of MUFON. I am not a member of MUFON. I know plenty of people at MUFON, and these people are genuine people. They're really trying to get answers. But all I've seen from MUFON in the last bunch of years is them selling evidence to people through the back door or buying it and hiding it and being very secretive, plus their internal problems. They have done nothing, in my opinion, to advance any of the information on UFOs. They're just looking like, oh, let's make another TV series. We'll make some more money out of it. There are other organizations that are strictly straight up. The National UFO Reporting Center, they're great. They report it. They put it out there, and they don't charge you for it, okay? You could actually put out scrapers. There's a couple of good websites out there that deal with database, and there are people that send out scrapers to these database, scrape all this information, and they collect it in another database. With MUFON, you're lucky if you get the grade D material without having to, grease the wheel. That's not information for anybody that's paying attention to the UFOs. And then, unfortunately, you get these people that come out that, they always interview some astrophysicist or whatever, or you get like a Nick Pope to come out, and it's the same thing over and over again. I think Nick has gone the way of Friedman. He was all about Roswell. And Friedman's great, and Nick, I know what he did for a living too, but it's just the same thing over and over again. There's nothing really relevant or new coming out.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we have a lot of people, and this isn't to put Nick Pope down or anything along those lines, but I mean, Nick Pope hasn't brought anything to the table for years. The only thing he's doing is he's collecting a paycheck right now, repeating all of the news that has already been said and calling himself an expert. And he's been able to carve a niche. You know, I apologize for calling a spade there, you know, but I mean, he's the ace of spades when it comes to people who are talking heads who give us absolutely nothing new. If you were in that position, you got to give us something. Give us something to earn that credibility.
It seems like these individuals that we've come to know and love or like or even hate, and I don't hate any of them. I really don't. And I'm not really trying to attack people, but I'm tired of hearing the same old stuff. I'm sick and tired of it. There are a few people out there that are really, I would call revolutionary in this field. Grant Cameron, one of them. The man is on fire. I mean, he really is not only just getting that research, but he's taking it a step further and doing his own research on it. Mary Rodwell's doing great stuff with, these people who have had experiences. And you talk about light language. This is revolutionary. No one's talking about it. All we're talking about is the same story. It's the nothing burger with a side of fries and a heaping pile of double talk. And that's the problem, and that's the problem with it.
Well, one of the other issues that we have with it, my friend, is where do people, the good people listening to this show, okay, who are seeking more information, how can they trust what is coming out right now? Okay, because if they put any thought into it, they know the mainstream media is not doing them any favors in covering this story because they haven't covered this story properly. They've got it right so far with what they've been given, but you can tell that they haven't asked any tough questions. You know, there's 1,000,001 podcasts out there regarding UFOs. I heard somebody the other day, this person has been in ufology for less than 6 months, telling people that he's the only one they should listen to because he knows what's going on. Nobody else does. He's the one who knows what's going on. And if people want the correct information, they should listen to him. And I just sat there stunned, and I was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't go in the chat room because I went from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this. But, Brian, the point that I'm trying to get at is there's good people out here. Like, if you look in our chat rooms every night, those of us who are watching on YouTube, those who are watching on Twitch or listening on terrestrial radio right now, all right, who are listening, trying to learn about this subject. And away from Spaced Out Radio, they're having a lot of troubles trying to get proper information.
Well, there's not much information left out there. There's no big secret. Well, the only big secret is a national security issue, and you're not going to know it. Unless you become a senator or someone of significance within a government that requests that information, you're not going to know. That DNI report, I called it from the beginning. And I have plenty of people that are great researchers. I mean, Tom Conwell out of New York State is one hell of a researcher. But he was in disclosure land. Enough of the disclosure. I'm sorry. Disclosure happened. It happened in 57, but really, truly in 77 with the release of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Hynek was in the movie. He didn't say a word, and he didn't have to. He was there when the craft lands and the aliens come out. If you don't realize that was your disclosure, that these things are real, you have a problem. It's not going to come out. The only way people are going to get disclosure about UFOs is if these alien species land their craft and say, hey, we're here, and you guys can do nothing about it. Governments have that there's nothing good about telling the world that we don't know what these craft come from. What was interesting, the only thing interesting in there was admitting that this may be experimental. We don't know. They do know. The government knows. The guys on the inside know what's going on there. But if you want to find out as a layman or people on your show, one, and I'm not saying it to, I'm not blowing smoke, you have a great resource for everybody that wants to know about these things. You have a variety of guests on, and each one has a little bit of information, or maybe sometimes a lot, that is very important and relevant to knowing what's truly going on. On top of that, I mentioned Grant. I mentioned Mary Rodwell. Paul Sinclair out of the UK, Tom Conwell. I mean, there are a few people in this country alone that are doing great research. We started the New York State UFO Project because we had a lot of people we were interviewing about craft, about abductions. We have a family in New York State right now that is not only supposedly living in in a community that is literally made up of reptilians, but this woman's children have said that, one, she's not their real mother, although they still love her, and that reptilians are their real family. This is real. We started this so we can get to these people. We can talk to them. Other people were scared. They were coming. They were freaking out because they're reading these books about what aliens do. They don't know how to handle it. We provided a live forum for people to meet up and have closed door, like-minded discussions. That's what we do. And everything we do with our research, be it with, Al doing it, or we send somebody out to do it, or I do it, I put it online. I throw the real video up there. Hiding anything. I'm not holding back from anybody. And that's what you got to look for. You got to look, go to Grant Cameron. Grant's going to tell you things. And it's not just about aliens. It's about how to have a relationship with these different species of aliens that are out there. Call it the active encounter. There's a doctor in this field that wants to charge you $400 to see this. Anybody that says they're an expert or charging you money, run. Run the hell away from them. They're not an expert. No one is. Except for anybody working on black projects that actually have an alien in front of them.
That's kind of cool. That would be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. We actually met a woman. We just filmed earlier this year for a documentary. This woman her grandmother was a seamstress in the military. She actually sewed the cover for, I think, Fat Boy and Little Man, Atomic Bomb. She was there at the base where Roswell took place, and she has a picture with her standing with 7 scientists, and in front of them on a gurney is an actual alien. It's from 1940 something, 50. They tested the photo. They went to Eastman Kodak with it. Eastman came back, said this is 100% genuine. She did a UFO documentary out of her own money. It's called Star Children of Pine Bush. It's going to be released soon. And Stephen Greer is now hawking it on the latest thing that he has up now. He's alluding to it, but won't have her on. This is the problem in this field. People will allude. They'll take your information, but they won't give you credit to it because it's all about me, right? It's all about the doctor. It's all about Blink bullshit 182. Sorry, I know we're a light tester. Dump me. I won't do that again. It's a lot of junk, and this information is free. They're not going to charge you aliens, reptilians, Pleiadians, Orion, whatever they are. They're here to do whatever they're here to do.
You know what I hear is we got about 90 seconds left.
Sure.
What I hear a lot of right now, Brian, is I hear a lot of these newcomers into the field. I don't want to say stealing information, but they're great researchers, okay? And they're following a number of people, and they know how to use social media properly, namely Twitter, Instagram, maybe Reddit. Mm-hmm. And here they are taking all this information, speaking about it verbatim like it's their own. When you got a little snippet of Grant Cameron, you got some Dolan over here, you got some Elizondo here, you got some Danny Sheehan over there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's and yet they're all of a sudden rock stars in this field.
I know a lot of these people you're referring to. They played the game the right way. And it may be a politically correct lifestyle or something that's current in there that gives them that little edge. But there's a lot of thievery in this thing. And there's also a lot of people that are doing great research, but they put it out there to select people, maybe on MUFON or whatever. and someone else hears it, they interview him privately, then the next thing you know, there's a book out about it.
Yes. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Bryan Bowden is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. UFOs, Disclosure, Dogman. We're going to hit absolutely everything tonight with Bryan. We look forward to it the second half hour. Spaced Out Radio is next. You know what I'm noticing, and I've tried. I'm in a conversation. I'm not going to say with whom. Thank you, Guillermo, for that awesome super chat. Joining Chad, that's a great way to support what we do on this radio show we call Spaced Out Radio. Thank you, buddy.
Smoke if you got him.
But you know, like I was talking to Hi Stone Hobbit, Michael Haywood. Good to see you. I was talking to Nicole Sackich about this the other day. And her and I are working on something right now, and I'm just going to keep it at that. And the one thing that I notice is a lot of these people who've been around for 20, 30, 40 years plus, they are so quick to give up their information to the I'm not saying all of the young crowd, because there's an ever-evolving door in this field. And as we get older, there's going to be new young kids coming in who have, who are going to take that research and that promotion to a whole different level. And I believe that's a good thing. But there's this group of them who take that information that all of these old-timers have said, they base it as their own research. Then they run around on different podcasts, on different shows, on social media, trying to be the voice of ufology, that this is what's going on. And these same old dudes who've been around since Christ was a child, okay, literally will be like, oh, did you see the work that so-and-so did? Man, that person's good. We got to promote them. And they do. They invite them into conferences, that they invite them to speaking engagements, online digital forums where money is charged, and you're looking at it and you're like, you got to be kidding me. You got
I meet them a lot, and I see them a lot. I hate to use it. Facebook is very weird. There should be like family, associates, and friends, because when you say friends with, it's a very weird word. But there are a lot of people that are connected, and they're basically, what they're good at is taking a little bit of information and then quickly formulating it and publishing it. There's a lot of people that are playwriters, they're authors that are now experts. No, you're not really the expert. You've been successful with books. You know how the formula works. You could crank out a book. I mean, for example, if you've written several books, you know the formula, and they're successful, you can just put out, Stephen King can put his name on the yellow pages, and it will be a bestseller. That's just how it is. But, I've seen these people, and it's like, wait a minute, we're doing actual research here. We're investigating, we put out stuff, and all this person is talking about stuff that they've taken from that guy, and that girl, and this person, and that person, and you just sit there dumbfounded. I mean, and some of them are just not very attractive either. And you're like, okay, who are they sleeping with at this point, or doing to get, ahead? If you think you're going to make money in this field without publishing a book, let's just say, you're not. It's not that kind of field. Paranormal, you don't make money in it.
Yeah,
and
you know what? There are certain people who are doing it right. Like, for instance, when I look around, I love to use the example of the guys, Ben and Joe from UFO Garage.
Great guys.
Great guys. Hilarious. They're not trying to step on people's feet. They're not trying to step on toes. They're not trying to, steal research. People talk to them because they're good guys. Hey, Philip Matlock, how you doing? And when you look at that, I'm drinking iced tea, Witchy, iced tea. when you look at the way they're doing it, and then you look at the way that some others are doing it, it's disappointing because I see a lot of these older people who've spent almost half a century busting their ass trying to get any type of information out to the public regarding this subject, and here they are. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking in circles. I don't even know.
No, I mean, look, I do give, some mention Richard Dolan. I do give Richard Dolan credit, but these guys are, I don't know if it would be research. They just know the right things that they need to pull. They get a concept. They need the right information to pull, and then they publish. And when you're successful publishing, sometimes people will come, hey, did you hear about this? Listen, I didn't tell you, but X, Y, and Z took place.
Let's hold that thought. Yeah. We're back in 8 seconds. And let's run with it here, and we'll continue the conversation. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the man who has 10,000 podcasts. Bryan Bowden is here out of the beautiful state of New York, soon to be Florida, and he has been researching and experiencing UFO phenomena almost his entire life. He is a cryptid researcher who's had run-ins with Bigfoot and Dogman, which we'll get into a little bit later, but we are talking UFOs and the current state right now. And Bryan, during the break, even though our radio audience didn't hear it, we were talking about researchers, how they're getting ripped off and how they are really trying to see their research get pushed to the wayside with others taking credit for it. Drew here, though, brings up a point. He goes, Dave, a lot of the young guns stand on the shoulders of the greats like Dolan, who is an elite researcher and historian as well. This is very true. There are some great young researchers out there, or who we consider young not by age but by time that they have been in the field. And we can't put them all in one basket here, Bryan, because there is a lot of intellect coming through with this newer generation of ufology.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that run with it the proper way, and a lot of people it's very interesting. They schmooze up to people and they get the confidence and oh, you're so great. And people love egos. And little by little, there becomes a connection. And then the next thing you know, you're that person associated with Dolan. Oh, if Dolan's, with them, well, maybe they're somebody of importance. So that's, it's dumb luck a lot of times. Someone was mentioned of something like that. It is looks too. If you have a certain, look, and on the female side, you're a little bit more, people are a little bit more gravitated to that individual versus, another person. But the bottom line is we have a lot of people that have latched onto this subject because it's an easy subject. Frankly, if you are a good sci-fi writer, you could write a good book, pass it off as information, and no one really would, unless you've really been in the field, would know much about whether they should question you on it. It's just, you just need to know the right information to put out there. I mean, I could tell, we used to go to these meetings and some people would come in spewing this god-awful stuff, and the BS meter is just, it's almost pinned. And I could have gone in there and told a ton of different stories because of experience between interviewing people, going to locations, and my own personal experience. But this is what people are doing now. There's a lot of gray area there, and I'm sorry to use that term when we're talking about UFOs and aliens because the grays, but there is. It's very suspect. And look what happened over in the UK. You have someone who comes out of nowhere and wants to make a name for herself and starts accusing, Larry Warren for lying through whatever. And I stayed the heck out of that. I'm like, I'm done. This is how a lot of people operate. They'll throw the accusation out there. They'll spin it. They'll be like determined terriers. They won't give up. And the next thing you know, you have divided people. Some people for one side, some person, for the other side. And it totally muddies the water of actual researchers. One of the reasons why we give away our stuff for free is because that's how you get it out there. I mean, besides, I told my buddy, I'm like, we should just put out a press release. And he laughed at me. But that's the way you have to play the game if you really want to be heard.
Well, let's talk about the game.
Yeah.
What is the game being played right now, in your opinion?
Right now, after what took place this past June, the game is double talk. It's trying to make something out of nothing. I mean, there was a 3-hour show with great guy Josh Gates. I think he's really great, but wow, was that a waste of 3 hours of people's lives? It was people making something out of nothing. There was nothing, zero, that was in that report that was worth to do a 3-hour program on. Not one thing. Oh, they have Harry Reid on and they have John Podesta and all these. Who cares? Nothing came out of it. The only thing we heard was, it looks like it's really on their radar now, and they're going to have a task force. You know what that says to me? Lots of money going to black budgets, and that's what it is. Oh, we need more money. We need more money to fund. This is the current Blue Book, the Blue Book of 2021. This is what Hynek was involved in. It's just a smokescreen, and that's the game right now. Who can throw the best smoke up? Be if you're a former intelligence officer, or you're a musician, or you lobbying false accusations, or you take data and then reorganize it for your use and make assumptions off of it. That's the game. There's nothing new coming out. But Mary Rodwell, you hear enough about her? She's really doing some great stuff. You don't hear enough about Grant. Grant's doing his own PR, which is awesome. And again, I point to Tom Conwell. This guy is the first guy I've ever talked to that when you have these lulls in areas where they used to have high UFO activities and then they stop, people, one person in the UFO community said the reason why they stopped sightings is because people didn't have cable. And I questioned them. I said, are you saying because people didn't have a cable modem or cable TV that they're not going to report UFOs? There's something called the phone. People can pick it up. They were doing it before there was an internet. It makes these wild assumptions. But Tom came to the right conclusion. They're conducting a survey, and they stop. They're done with their survey. So what do? Pack up stuff, and you move on. If these aliens are here, and they're monitoring humans, no matter what part of the globe, they're tasked for a certain area. They go, they do their, abductions, the genetic tests, hybrids, check the area for whatever other animals are there, and then when they're done, they move to the next one. That's why crafts are you get the lulls in them. But other people are making stuff up. They're making these false assumptions up, and then they're winning awards for it. It blows my mind.
Well, it all comes down to the narrative. What is the narrative being played? Okay, and this is something, Brian, that you and I talked about 3 years ago when the To the Stars Academy came out, and I pointed out to you on your show when I was a guest about that there is a media narrative out there that nobody is seeing. And if you look at that media narrative, the way it's been played from the To the Stars Academy on forward, we haven't got any information. Now, if the media was doing their job, Okay, and please, I don't want to get into a conversation because you and I have very different outlooks on the mainstream media, okay? But if the media was doing their job, one of the first things they would have asked when the report came out last month, why are we stopping at 2004? Did ufology just start in 2004? Yet the majority of the media played right into that. And when you play into a narrative, you control the story.
Yep. And what's happening with the media is it serves a purpose. It's a break. And their interest is really not in it. The media of now is not interested in getting to the bottom line. Very select people are. The media of now is providing an entertainment break and just enough information. They're not going to go against the hands that feed. And so I agree with you. Why did they stop at 2004?
But I mean, here's the other issue too, okay, that a lot of people don't see about the media. And you and I could fight about this all night, and it would be for great conversation. All right. But the media isn't the media anymore. We can agree on that.
100%.
The problem is, it isn't that the media is bought. It's twofold. Number one, the media has taken political sides, which is completely wrong. Doesn't matter which party you support.
Right.
Their job is supposed to call it down the middle, and they aren't. But when it comes to UFOs or anything along those lines, the media is about clickbait now. Clickbait journalism. I remember when I was working in my newsroom in Vancouver 20 years ago, and we had this gentleman who was our news director, and it was funny because every week we had the hirings and firings list. I mean, this guy loved canning people. He once waited until 1:30 in the morning to can one of our traffic reporters. Right? I mean, that's how much he loved firing people.
Wow.
And anyways, long story short, he told me, he goes, news is not news anymore. It's infotainment.
But
it's
that's the
infotainment.
point.
And so what happened was, all of a sudden around Vancouver, we started seeing all of these investigative journalists who've been around the block getting paid probably at that time a good wage, $65,000, $70,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay, were no longer. Because it was about clickbait. We were more worried about Britney Spears versus Jessica Simpson versus Christina Aguilera than we were about what was happening in our own city councils and with healthcare and the government and calling people out on task. That's where the media shifted. If you want to look at it on a national level, it really shifted, in my opinion, around the O.J. Simpson case and the way CNN covered that. And that's where the infotainment began. And then all of a sudden, the internet takes over and the clickbait begins. So there's no real time anymore, and there's no real experienced journalists anymore in most outlets to actually take the time to follow up a story. And that's the problem.
Right. But that's the generations right now, the microwave generation, 30 seconds and they're done.
Yes.
Most people get their news in under 30 seconds. And it's whoever is on whatever medium you're following, phone, tablet, computer, or television. 30 seconds, they hear it and they're out. And the news media knows this. So what they're going to do is they're going to put some outlandish type of, headline up there for UFOs. Could aliens be real? Catch their attention. They'll talk to Ben Hansen or something, or somebody else. They'll get an impression. They'll cut it whatever way they want to spin it to make it more exciting, and then that's it. This is the problem. It's I feel bad for some of the old time reporters there and the media people. I mean, my dad was in the media, so we know how it was done and how it used to be. I know plenty of people that had their own show, and they're not talking about it anymore. It's not interesting, but it's very interesting if some singer who almost killed herself with an overdose now is going to discover UFOs and aliens, and they put that in there because now they're connecting entertainment with UFOs, right?
My friend, when I used to do radio hits on this subject, I was usually on the air for 30 minutes to an hour. on mainstream radio. Now, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, because they're so worried about jamming so much content in and having 20 to 30 guests per show that they're it's not about content anymore.
I used to watch a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago. I used to watch in the States, in New York, CBS morning show every morning while you're getting ready to go to work. And they'd have a guest on there, and they're talking about a topic, whatever it is. Let's say it's UFOs. They're talking, and they have 3 minutes, and all of a sudden, in the middle of something that's extremely important, like this is serious for national security, they say, "I'm sorry, we have no more time." Up next, we're going to go to Las Vegas and look at Siegfried and Roy and their tiger. They will cut something just because they want to get to the next story, or and they're just talking heads on there. There are very few investigative journalists. Anybody that's an investigative journalist now,
there is none. They're very rare. They're on their. They already have their foot out the door. Okay, like George Knapp, love him or hate him, I love the guy personally. Okay,
I think he did a great job, actually,
and I think he still does a good job. But I mean, you know what? He's in his late 60s, early 70s. Do you really think KLAS is going to replace George with another investigative journalist? No, hell no. They can find a really, really attractive young man or woman, and or whatever they want to be, and they can pay them $38,000 a year right out of UNLV's journalism program or somebody like that, and that's where they're going to go with that after Knapp retires.
Right, and those same people they just hired that are going to do the 8-minute segments and think they're doing God's work are the same people, but in a different format, are listening to some of the bigwigs in the UFO community, Knapp, they're taking Tom DeLonge stuff, Lou Elizondo, you name it, and then they're writing these quick little pieces and publishing them, and publishing. Those are the ones that are getting the attention. For some reason, if you don't have enough content 24/7, your website goes down, your hits go down, everything goes down, right? So if we don't have these sources that are leaking this stuff 24/7, unless you have a Corbell video with triangles or something. You have to constantly keep up and feed the machine. And if you're not feeding the machine spits you out for the person that is. This is why the truth is not coming out. Real information is not coming out. And everybody is basically, if they said it in New York, it's saying it in Chicago, the same thing. California, Vancouver, it's all the same stuff.
Well,
and this is a problem.
Rich makes a good comment here. He said, people only care about being entertained and instant gratification, but let's blame the media or government. Come on, guys. I think we mentioned that the media does hold a responsibility for that, though, Rich. They do, because that is what they get paid to do. Now, the public, where Rich is right, is the fact that it really shows that people don't care anymore. We're too isolated in our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter world to be worried about what the talking heads are saying.
Right. The best thing for ufology is, in this current day and age, is that it's more open. They are talking about it in the media. So they are, every once in a while, you'll get a story about someone seeing a strange craft, and they'll have some video. It'll be a person of interest piece or something like that. And that's the best part about it. It's no longer thought of as the people living in their basement and have tinfoil hats on. There are a lot of credible people that have the courage now, which I applaud dramatically, to come forward and say, listen, I've had the experience. I know I have a cousin that's a pilot. Okay. And straight up, he tried to get into the space program, the whole nine. He was one of the first guys to test fly the 777, like the hotel in the air. And I know a couple of those other people. They could see 50 UFOs. If they reported one, they were fired, or to the point where they'd force them to leave. Now, thankfully, pilots are reporting what they're seeing, which is great information. So if you really want to know what's going on, Look at that information. Look at what pilots are reporting, like the one that was, where was it? They were in Arizona, believe it was. The looked like a missile coming at them. So almost it endangered the flight almost. That's great information. My cousin works at the airport, and we went to one of his parties. Everybody there was either a stewardess or a pilot. And my wife looked at me and I said, I'm not going to say anything, but I know that after a while, someone's going to be, well, there was this one time. And I got some great information. Yeah, we saw this craft. It was about 40,000 feet. It was doing things we couldn't, this is where I get some of my information. But they never would have talked about it before. Before all this stuff came to like mainstream, they would have like, nope, didn't see anything. Unless you were like this.
But that's the point. So now we have to trust the government on their videos, their reports, because they have absolutely, taken away anything that people like our audience members have filmed. Those don't count anymore. They've, I don't want to say they've been discredited, but they've been put on the back burner like it's not important. If it's not from an FA-18 Hornet in the middle of the Pacific, it doesn't count.
I'll tell you, as a researcher for almost 40 years, I love people's videos. That's the real deal. When I get stuff like the Tic Tac video, and I'm not that impressed with it. First of all, I saw that years ago before it became hot news. It was released years ago. I remember seeing these videos, the gun cam footage. It was just recently, I guess they kept pressing it and pushing it out there a little bit more. They got the right press, and then all of a sudden it took off. But when I see videos of craft around missile bases or warships or something like that, or flying by the Hornets, my first thought is not extraterrestrial. It's black projects terrestrial. That's my first thought. And what better way to test what you got than on your own men and women in the military? And I think that's a lot of what you saw in those videos. Tic Tac, the pyramid in the water, all that stuff. They have reverse engineered these products, and they want to see how we're going to react to it and how real we can make it, so that everybody around the globe thinks, oh, well, if they don't know, then maybe there's a big problem. It's part of psychological operations. People aren't thinking the right way. But I love when your audience has a video and they show it. I mean, I put up a video. I was at my kids. They were doing a softball practice in Van Cortlandt Park, a large park. And I'm there. And right in front of my face, I'm like, that's a UFO. I took out my phone. I filmed this thing for over 5 minutes. It's online. And then I slowed it down. And at certain point, this thing morphed in shape. We zoomed in on it. I'm using my iPhone. It's not like every day I'm like, oh, I need my A7, just, which I don't have. But that's great video footage. And does it get any attention? No. When they talk, even in the New York media, they don't even go to anybody in New York. They'll pick up somebody. They'll pick on a celebrity, a para-celebrity, to talk about UFOs. Do they talk to anybody that's an organized group in New York? No, not whatsoever. So I think there's a lot of credibility for every one of these, listeners and people that have had an experience. Watch those videos. That's the real deal. The government can discredit whatever you want, but in general, the government, I don't necessarily believe it, because it has a certain interest that he has to protect, not only to protect the public.
But, we even look at, if you want to take it to a different level, and we could talk about this after the break. Sure. I was talking with somebody about this today, about this, the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Research, okay, which is a bunch of scientists from around the world, literal scientists, college professors, university professors, astrophysicists, everything in between, who have come together and literally are studying UFOs. Anything to do with UFOs. The reports, they're connected to SETI, they're connected to government agencies, they're connected to any type of government leaders. They have pull within their university. Very powerful people. And I'm surprised that they haven't spoke up more. And we're going to talk about this when we come back, because I got a couple of them booked for September.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
And it's going to be great radio, but we got to talk about this. Bryan Bowden is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and coming up in hour 2, the UFO talk is going to continue. The SCU, shouldn't they be releasing press releases while Neil deGrasse Tyson runs around saying aliens are fake, UFOs are fake, everything is fake, and you're going to die and go ashes to ashes and dust to dust? We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, buddy. I'm just going to...
run your dogs?
Run the dogs. I'll be right back. Okay.
I don't know if Rich can hear me. He posts something about there, but I'm gonna say it. Rich, they definitely would fly these craft, even with our multi-million-dollar.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk with the audience?
Oh, if they're listening.
Yeah,
no.
Listening.
I mean, let's say for the regular YouTube, they definitely would. They've done it before because they have plausible deniability, so they don't have to. And let me tell you something, with these black projects, there's a lot of stuff here that is not, I don't know, considered of people's interest, and what's right and wrong. They're doing this because this is what they do. And they would test all of that stuff 100%. And if someone died in the process, it'd be listed as a training exercise problem, and they get the full funeral and burial service, and that would be that. I'm Rangers, by the way. Yep, New York Rangers. Yeah, I know. They suck. I got it. 1940, 1994, whatever you want to do. I got another couple of years to get another cup. But that's why I think they would do it. That's one. And as far as Neil deGrasse Tyson, he actually grew up in my neighborhood. And he's been around. Not a big fan. I think he's an intelligent individual, not on everything. Yeah, one of my best friends, he's on the island. He's a huge Flyers fan. Yeah, we should have signed Simmons when we had a chance. I think he's great. He's total underrated. Tell us a UFO story. Sure, I'll wait for one. I have a missing time incident that took place in June of this year. Yeah, it was not too thrilled about it, actually, because it wasn't just me. It was my entire family. Yeah. Jeff Perry, you were spot on. Celebrity scientists. Oh, man. Everybody wants to be famous. That's how you make your money. You don't make it doing science. Yeah, that's insane. Ooh. I wish I could get payback for the missing time. I really don't want to know what the heck, happened, but I may have to ask. Yeah, he is. Tyson's a bit obnoxious. I guess his claim to fame was making Pluto a giant ice cube, but I still consider it a planet. No matter what he says, the hell with him.
All right, brother, I'm back.
Not a problem.
You haven't scared anybody away yet, have you?
No, I'm just answering. They asked, someone asked if I was a Rangers fan, Islanders, Devils, or whatever. I'm a Rangers fan, and yes, I know they sucked.
All right. Big thank you to YJ, to Guillermo, and Chad for the super chats. It's a great way to be supporting this show. Cecil, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Preston, good to have you back in the chat room. Gloria from Casual Conversations, looking lovely tonight. James Fadke, nice to see you, my friend. Who else is new in here that we missed? Let me see here. I think we're caught up for right now. Stephen Edmond, how are you?
I was just letting them know that Neil deGrasse Tyson grew up in my neighborhood.
He's got great hair.
I've seen him. He's got good hair. He's just I don't think he's as bright as he is.
Well, you don't get that job being stupid. That's for sure.
No. Don't get me wrong. I think he, as he definitely has the science behind it. But part of science is, being a little bit more open-minded. You always have.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a minute.
Sure.
All right. The Philip Matlock. TH, good to see you. Boom to you, Bama. Jesse Peak, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. VPXM, how you doing, brother? Beverly Holmes, looking lovely tonight. And I think Excalipurful, how are you? Good to see you. And yeah. Oh, thank you, Andrew, for adding to the super chat. Really do appreciate that, buddy. All right, we got about 30 seconds here.
Dolph Lundgren is a celebrity scientist. Very interesting.
Oh yeah. Troy SR71, nice to see you. Cabasa Nova, how are you, gorgeous? And there's a number of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people but what the best part about it is they just keep very quiet about it.
Yeah.
They're not going to ruin their ticket.
No way. All right, 5 seconds. Here we go, everyone. Let's enjoy hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Barragoon. Barragoon is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Bryan Bowden. He is a researcher, experiencer. We're talking some UFOs right now. He has about 18,000 podcasts that you can tune in on at any time by going on everything from Apple to Spotify to everything. He's there. And Bryan, welcome back.
Thank you. We're everywhere. What can I tell you?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's the way
you
it
just
should
got to
be.
go, hey, Siri, play Inside the Goblin Universe, and you'll get the latest podcast. But, yeah.
Right before the break, we started talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, this man is considered one of the smartest scientists in the United States. He gets a lot of press time. And recently he came out basically laughing at the UFO community and everybody from Elizondo to the government officials who say, really, like you're taking this seriously? And he's on one hand. And then on the other, a lot of people don't understand that there is a group called the SCU, which is the Scientific Coalition for UAP Research Studies, which is a group of professors, and astrophysicists, mathematicians, and everything in between who are looking into the UFO phenomena from a scientific point of view. What I'm really surprised at is with the powerful people that are sitting on this SCU and the scientists who are literally signed up to be a part of this group, that none of them are standing up for the UFO community. This baffles me because this is a perfect time to release a press release or to have their press person contact a media outlet, say, look, if you're going to have Tyson on talking about how fake UFOs are, maybe you would like to have one of our scientists come on and have a little bit of a counterpoint conversation and tell the story that there is sufficient evidence to suggest that we may not be alone in the universe, Brian.
Well, the Drake equation explains that pretty well, doesn't it? But you have to understand that I think the only reason why you're having this type of groups come out is because they're jumping on the UFO train, the publicity end of it. Scientists, professors, mathematicians, they all work for universities or colleges or schools, and they get paid by them and ultimately get paid by governments. They're the biggest employer of university officials throughout the world. They're not going to ruin their meal ticket. If someone deep inside whatever agency says you need to cut it out, they're going to cut it out, or they're going to lose their tenure and their connection to, the university and their credentials. We've seen this before. So, I agree with you. I'd like to have someone on the other end of the spectrum, but, Tyson is the flavor of the current flavor. Mishu Kaku is another one, but he's a little bit, he does lean a little bit more. It's possible. He doesn't definitively say they're not there. I'd love to hear more from the Harvard professor who felt that the large craft that came into our solar system and did maneuvers to go out, who believes it was a under intelligent controlled craft. I'd like to hear his opinion on it before I hear Tyson. But you're not going to hear his opinion. He got ridiculed by his own colleagues. They were like, how could you say that? So now he has to be quiet and, go a little bit dark and continue his research, and otherwise he risks losing his livelihood.
Well, I'm going to let you in on something. Avi Loeb is actually going to be appearing with Lynn Wallington on one of our weekend shows.
Awesome. She's in Massachusetts.
It's coming up. That's great. That's all I'm going to say is that it's coming up.
Awesome.
I know it's happening. And so for people who don't know who Avi Loeb is, he is the Harvard professor who believed that the Oumuamua space rock wasn't a rock at all, but an alien craft that was flying through our universe. So, Lynn hit a home run with that one.
100% grand slam.
For our radio audience, our terrestrial radio audience, Lynn's show is Saturday nights on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/spaced out radio if you want to hear that interview, which I highly, highly recommend. But the point that I'm getting at is whether it's MUFON, and yes, they have their own messes, and I've talked to, one of my good friends is on the MUFON board of directors, and Tom Whitmore, who I highly, highly respect in this field. Whether it's MUFON or whether it is the SCU, I think they've done a terrible job at bringing themselves out into the public over the last number of years and bringing themselves into the press. When the UFO people needed them the most, which is right now, they haven't been public. They have been silent. And this I find very distressing, because you can't ask for people's reports on one hand and videos and experiences, but sit quietly on the fences while this whole topic goes in shambles in front of the mainstream media. I don't think it's right. What's your opinion?
I agree with you. Seriously, we heard nothing but crickets from MUFON. They should have been at the forefront of this. It shouldn't have been, they should have been with Lou Alessandro and this at the forefront. They should have been riding shotgun or some capacity. They are deadly. No one's heard from them. And this is a problem. Now, is it a problem for their own internal problems that have, taken the press and they just want to kind of like push that away, give it some time to go away before they start coming out? Or are they working on something? I mean, the only thing I heard from MUFON recently is they have some kind of device that detects UFOs, they say. It really doesn't detect UFOs. It detects anomalies in electromagnetic spectrum. It's a reach. But other than that, they're silent. And a lot of people have been talking negatively about MUFON because of the fact that when they go and they ask for information or access, give us the same access we have for the National UFO Database. Give us the same damn access. And they won't, unless you're a paying player. And that doesn't bode well for anybody in the research field. And what's happening and what you're seeing is that's allowing all these other little individuals to pop up and say, I'm an expert. No, I'm an expert. No, I'm an expert. I'm surprised all these little new experts didn't get together and start their own, UFO something group.
Well, Jesse here says this. Jesse in our chat room. I'm from MUFON, and I talk about it on my show all the time, and so do many others. But Jesse, you're a researcher. There's a big difference between what the researchers like you are doing and what the board of directors is doing to steer MUFON.
Yeah.
MUFON for 50 years has claimed to be the epitome of UFO reporting. Where everybody goes, that's where the information is supposed to flow. MUFON wants all the information, which is great because we need an international and national recording database for this, which MUFON has done. But when you drop the ball on the press, if you're supposed to be the big kid on campus, you shouldn't have been bullied around when TTSA came aboard. You should have got your name out there to the mainstream media who was starting to pick up this topic. Nowhere has anybody from the MUFON board of directors been on any mainstream media outlets or radio shows talking about this subject as an expert,
Yep.
which the MUFON board of directors should be. Now, Tom Whitmore, who I highly respect once again, and I'm proud to call him a friend, he is somebody who's done a lot of podcasts. You've heard him on this show a number of times, which is great. But this goes beyond the podcast or the YouTube channel or the fringe media, which even though we're on 6 different terrestrial radio stations, it goes beyond this type of fringe radio show. People from MUFON needed to be on the New York Times articles. They needed to be on CNN. They needed to be on Fox or Newsmax or any other outlet showing that they were the big kids on campus, and they dropped the ball on it. That's what we're trying to say. It's not the investigators, not the investigators who work their tails off at all, such as Jesse. It has everything to do with the board.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Jesse, keep doing the work you're doing. Always have double reports, a backup of your report, because eventually it's got to come out. And I'm not saying to circumvent your own organization whatsoever, but if they're not going to release it, then this is the reason why people are not going to them anymore. This is the reason why Tom DeLonge said, hey, I'm going to start my own thing. Because they don't play nice in the sandbox, even though there's plenty of room for everybody in the sandbox. MUFON should really be actively engaging with people, welcoming them in, sharing their information. And I'm telling you, they'll go right back up that ladder as the source. And I agree with you. There needs to be a almost essential repository for this information that anybody who's researching it can go to and base things off of, and share it with everybody. It's difficult. You got the local investigators, then you got the assistant director, then the state director, and then maybe you have a region, and it's becoming a bureaucracy, and that's the problem.
Well, MUFON still has to try and figure out, topic aside, what's happening after the whole Jan Harzan incident where he was busted for allegedly trying to pick up teenage girls.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons why they've started to just get out of the shadow. They don't want that focus on the group because there's a plenty of people that are at this organization that are doing really great work. They're really trying to get answers, not only for themselves, but for everybody here. And all these little bits and pieces between that, or there was some, years before that, there was a sexism thing, and then there was a racism thing, and it was just like, it's a mess. I mean, I think they have to reorganize themselves, maybe vet people better, and really put people in there, and not just focus on putting a new TV series out. How about being at the forefront? Why does MUFON not really do a podcast and get some of these people and experiences on there to share their stories?
That's actually a good idea. There's a new podcast for you.
I'm going to start it then. That's going to be 10,003. But that would be a great vehicle for him. And I agree. Steve is, Whitmore's a great guy, and he's trying his hardest. But there are certain organizational hierarchies and bits and pieces where he's limited to do what he can do. And I think partially it's because if he goes too far, they're going to remove him from having the right access that he needs to have. So for his own research, it's a tough game.
And you know what? And I also want to state before we kind of move on topics, this isn't about slamming MUFON. This isn't about slamming MUFON at all. What it is about is saying that through the last 3 years, MUFON needed to be on board in front of the media talking about this as the big dogs on campus, and they dropped the ball. And it's unfortunate. And once again, we should also, side note, the business side of MUFON is much different than the MUFON investigators who are busting their butts collecting 100%. Reports and doing great field work at bringing this topic out and getting these reports out. It's very, very, very much needs to be separated from the conversation, because it's easy to crap on MUFON for their flaws, but the people doing the legwork who are proud to wear that badge and to contribute to bringing these stories out, they do need to be commended. We should, state that very loud as well.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's unfortunate what's taken place. It is what it is. That's why I know a couple of directors in New York State, and they're like, how come you don't join MUFON? I'm like, I don't want to be restricted in what I do. I want to collect the research and put it out there. Now, don't get me wrong. We do keep confidentiality. If you come to us, you report a UFO and you don't want your information, we're not even going to allude to you whatsoever. That's primary. That's the first goal right there. But other than that, I want to report. I have a video I'd love to show, but out of the respect for the person, this is one of their the video cameras they have around their property in upstate New York, and there's a freaking gray alien there, and he's peeking out because he knows that there's a camera over there, and I'd love to show it, but out of the respect for the client, I'm not going to show it. I just won't. There's a lot of stuff like that, and then select people get to see it. I can't publish it, but I can show it to a couple of people. But because too much connection, people would know maybe where they are. It would reflect negatively on them, and they just don't want to go through it.
Right. Right. Let's move on, though, because
sure.
VPXM brings up a good comment in our chat room. Dave, really? MUFON employees do their work, but exactly what are they researching? Our own frickin' craft? Get real, guys. So this also comes up with the debate with the videos and what people are seeing. What is ours? What is theirs? You've delved into the Black Project aspect of everything. What do you think is going on and what we're seeing?
So I think I've if you get a really clear shot of a UFO, which is very rare for people to do, I think the clearer the image, you're looking at something that was a black project. A lot of the crafts you see, the triangle crafts, I'm totally convinced it's what a tier 3B or something of that nature that the military is using, and they're testing them and they're flying them, and they want to let you, let your imagination go wild. Oh, look, it's a UFO. It's a great way of doing things. So that's what I think is really going on. I think more alien or extraterrestrial. And when I say not only just extraterrestrial, interdimensional creatures or species that have been on Earth previous to even man coming, they're very good at keeping stealth. They don't want to be caught, and they know how to blend into sceneries. I think a lot of times, believe it or not, when you look up in the sky and you see some strange cloud formations, I think you very well could be looking at an alien craft in cover. They're not here to announce themselves for whatever reason. But I think we as humans always love to test the waters. And I think what you're seeing 99% of the time on some stuff, like Corbell's, triangle craft, my personal opinion, Tier 3B. It's a black project. That's what you're seeing. And that's why it's, and yes, I believe they're testing them in military situations, because even if they ruin a craft that's $130 million, or whatever it is, $250 million F-22, and someone dies in it, they still have plausible deniability in doing what they're doing. Everybody thinks it's a UFO. They're never going to know it was a black project until 100 years later, maybe, it gets released. So that's what I think people are saying. I love seeing these craft that are odd or strange during daylight hours, like have a little shimmy to them, or they have like this, what looks like a field or an artifact when you're zooming into it. That to me is a real craft. I was telling somebody, I had an experience. We were driving to Florida early in June because I had to go look at houses or trying to buy a place down there. And as we got to about Fayetteville, they closed the highway down. It was about 11:50, so my Waze told me to get off. I followed some roads, and I get on this darkened country road. I think it's 301, I believe it is, or 313. I forgot the number. My wife's in the car, and my two kids, and they're passed out. It's 11:30. I got an hour to get to Florence because that's where I'm staying. And as I'm going down these roads, I'm like, oh, this is like what I used to do in my summer camp, country road. And I see this really cool light in the distance that's changing red, green, yellow. And I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. So I've got some time, a lot of traffic on the highway. I pull over, shut the light off, get out of the car, and I'm looking at this thing. And I'm like, what could that be? It looks like something I've seen before that has changed colors, red, green, blue, purple, orange. And it's the same craft that's been seen earlier in this year. In two different places. California had it, Florida had it, and a couple other places overseas. It was the same exact type of anomaly. Didn't fit into any of the astronomical bodies that were up there. And as I get out of the car, I'm staring, and I'm looking at this thing saying, wow, this is cool. It gives a burst, and there's some light on my car, and I'm like, okay, where I am is by Fort Bragg. Maybe I'm looking at a drone, a military drone. No problem. And I'm still staring at it. The next thing I know, I don't know how it happened. I'm in my car. I kind of wake up in my car, and my Waze that I'm using says, "Do you want to resume?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to resume." I was only here for should be like 12:20. I look on. It says you'll get to Florence at 4:00 in the morning, and I'm like, "What?" I look at my watch. What I saw, no more than 15, 20 minutes. It would have been 12:20. So I should have been in Florence an hour later, roughly. I have missing time. The next day when we get to the hotel, they asked me, like how come it took so long? I said, oh, traffic. We all wake up. They all complain of headaches. I mean, headaches galore. And it was insane. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell just happened. We go down to Florida at the location that where my house is. They're building houses there. I look up, we're with the friend who moved into that spot. The same craft is in the sky, and I start hearing it ringing in my my left ear, really loud, a pierce, like like when you think someone's talking to you. Long story short, videotaped it. We go through the whole problem, the whole week, no problem. Get back to New York. We meet with a friend. We're having lunch. My daughter, who's never had a nosebleed, has a huge nosebleed. A chunk comes out.
Hold out right there.
Yep.
Did Bryan miss some time? Let's talk about the missing time phenomena when we return on Spaced Out Radio with the man of 10,000 podcasts, Bryan Bowden. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear.
Cool. Sorry about that. I just, someone mentioned tell a story, and I'm telling you exactly about missing time. Only happened 2 times in my life.
I haven't had missing time yet. Alaska's greatest athlete's family is listening right now.
Awesome.
Yes, they're in Alaska as well, probably eating some freshwater crab that her dad probably dove into the Bering Strait to get with his own hands. I'm pretty sure that's how it happens.
Pulled it out.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Swatted a couple of seagulls away in order to get them fresh crab.
That's a beautiful state, but a crazy state.
Yeah. I'll guarantee he's got a couple of black bear steaks with some of that Alaskan king crab going on. He killed the bear with his own hands, and then dove into the Bering Strait to grab the king crab. I could see it. I could totally see it happening. Let's see here. VPXM. Dave, you know how you invert audio and mix with the original? You get null wave. Can you do the same with light? So,
audio and... I think you can, actually. You could... No light... Yeah, no, I think that's how you would almost create a... I don't want to say an invisible shield, but you would distort the light to a point where there would be no light, so everything would bend around that area if you did it in that certain area.
Right.
You would hide yourself.
Brian, a couple people asking about your hockey jersey.
Oh, sorry. It's the Yetis. I was on the team. I skate like if you've ever seen in the States the Geico ad with the big sumo wrestler. That's me on skates. I'm better on foot hockey, but I love the sport. That's the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish I could skate like those guys could skate.
Stefan in the beautiful province of Quebec is asking. His last name is Bowden too. But his is the French version, and yours is the English version.
Well, I do have people in France apparently that I found out later on. But yes, this comes from the town of Bowden, Bowden, depending on where you are, and I think that's the family root right there. So, but I do believe there's a few Bowdens that made their way into France that love France, and who knows, especially after World War II. There's rumors that there are children running around. So you could be family.
Could very well be.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Vive les Baudins. There we go. Vive les Baudins.
Je m'appelle Bryan. Yeah, I took a half a semester of French, and I made the attempt when I went to visit my friends, and his mother invited us to Nice because they had an apartment there, and I made the attempt, and the gentleman everybody would say, "Monsieur, please, I speak English." I made the attempt. It was very poor. I apologize, but
right. Hi, Mennonite Abe.
Nice.
All right, good Mennonite kid there.
Is Mennonite Abe from the Pennsylvania region?
I don't know. He's definitely not from Steinbach, Manitoba. I do know that.
Are there Mennonites in Manitoba?
Oh, yeah. That's where my grandparents were born.
Huh?
Oh, yeah. The prairies are filled with the Mennonites and the Ukrainians, and I got
Huh?
both of them.
I got some Ukrainians in me, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, his dad is from Pennsylvania.
Ah. Oh. That's that. See, if I had to choose between Amish or Mennonite, I'd go Mennonite because they have cell phones and technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Although everybody was looking at me when we went on the, we went to, I guess, Amish house or whatever it was in PA. We went on a break with the kids, and the woman that was doing the tour was a Mennonite, and she said, "Do you know what this is?" And I started answering all the questions and everything and explaining it. And everybody's looking at me like, she said, "Are you a Mennonite?" Or I'm like, no. I just know a lot about things. My wife even looked like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
Yeah. Abe is saying that he's not really a Mennonite, but I mean,
I won't tell.
You know what?
Work it.
Yeah, in my world, on my mom's side, the name Abe was very Mennonite.
Ah, nice.
Very Mennonite. I don't know how many Uncle Abes and Grandfather Abes I had down the pipeline, but it was a lot.
I have an Uncle Abe, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good manly name. Good manly name. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with our good friend Bryan Bowden from New York. Parts unknown, weight unknown. And I'm going to feed off of this one because right before the break, Bryan was talking about an incident where he had a few hours of missing time. Continue with the story. You'd got back home.
Yeah.
Your daughter had a nosebleed.
Yeah, we got back home about, we didn't stay there too long, about a week. And we met with one of my wife's friends and her daughter. We went went to the park, came back, went to lunch. I was coming out of the bathroom. My daughter looks like white as a ghost and very upset. My wife's there with her, and I'm like, "What's going on?" She goes, "Oh, she had a nosebleed," and my daughter doesn't have nosebleeds at all. So my wife gives me the napkin, and there's a chunk. It's not just blood. There's an actual physical piece of something, cartilage or whitish. It's about an inch long and a half an inch wide, and it's probably 2 millimeters thick, and way too big to be. My daughter doesn't stick anything up her nose. She's 14 years old. She doesn't do those things. And I found it very odd, and I instantaneously went back to what happened about a week prior. So I was like, okay, this is a little bit strange. I kept it. I put it in a plastic bag. I was trying to get it to someone to try to do some kind of test, DNA testing or some kind of scientific test. I know a couple of people at smaller colleges. So we get home, whatever. My youngest goes and does the shower thing, getting ready for bed. And you have to put cream on her shoulders and arms. She has like psoriasis. And she goes, can you help me with the back? So I put the cream on. And as I'm about to go do it, right above her right shoulder blade, there is a scoop mark. And after that, I said, okay, put it down. I started researching. I started looking for craft in the area. I started going nuts because it's one thing for me to have missing time, but now you took my whole entire family. So, I'm talking to my buddy Al about it. I'm telling him, he goes, well, you can go get hypnotized. But I'll tell you something. One of the guys I like as a researcher, if you want to read some good books, look up Derek Tyler and Alien Encounters and Inconvenient Truth. Great book. It's the only book that's ever scared the hell out of me, because Derek gives you some real information, multiple abductee. So I asked him, I said, what should I do? And he's always stated that if you can sleep at night and you don't wake up in terror, don't ever get regressed. So now I have the dilemma where do I want to get regressed or do I not? But either way, I think things are going on at this point, and I'm just trying to work it out. So that's my UFO story for the person that asked in there. I'm not too thrilled about it, though.
It really is a different game, because it's one thing if it's happening to you, but when the children start getting involved, that's where, I'll be honest with you, that's where I stopped reading Whitley Strieber's Communion.
Yeah.
I remember it. My daughter was about 5 months old, and it was in 1999, and it came apart to the part of the book where Whitley is sitting on a craft, and he looks to the side of him and sees his son sitting right beside him on the UFO. I looked down at my daughter because I was cuddling her at the time, and I looked at the book, and I closed the book, and my bookmark, 22 years later, my bookmark is still in there. I have not finished that book at all.
I'm with you on that. It's if you think Mama Bear is tough, Papa Bear is just as tough. I don't want anybody messing with my children for anything. And I don't, the general consensus is from research, these species of alien are abducting for primarily for DNA, and they're creating hybrids and what have you. You want to know something? You want to create hybrids for me? Go for it. See all these like gray aliens with great beards running around. That'd be great. I don't want you touching my children. I don't want them to be involved in this, because no, you just crossed the line with me. So
yeah.
No, she is the only one with physical marks. I'm looking at that right now, that I can see. My older daughter is at the age. First of all, I don't check out their bodies. I mean, my wife is the one, and she's not looking for that. And although she is a skeptic, even though she had her own really great encounter, like a sighting, she's not looking for that. She's just being mom. But it's very unusual. If I could describe how big this mass was, it was way too much to be coming out to be whatever your nostrils produce or your sinuses. Way too much. And it was a definitive shape. So, unfortunately, the problem is... Did you
save that booger? Let's be honest.
I saved the booger. The problem is...
it dried out.
No, you have to... If you're going to do some DNA... I'm just going to give everybody a tip here. If you have an incident like this and you have something... You want to put it in a plastic bag. It was very hot that day, and get it cold immediately. The cold is what preserves the DNA and the evidence. And apparently what I sent out was like we couldn't do anything with it. We got nothing. So that was the problem that I have. So from this point forward, my wife asked me, like, why do you have 3 cold packs with you? I'm like, I'd rather not say. She's not going to believe me. She's going to think I'm off my rocker, but... Next time, I'm prepared. This is how I have to travel now.
I hear you. Bryan Bowden is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Now, when it comes to your children, have they ever come up to you and said, Dad, I saw these weird things in my dreams last night? If this is too sensitive a topic, we could change it.
No, it's not sensitive at all. It's actually very important because... you have to understand how to deal with this. I can deal with it. My wife's not going to, she's going to blow it off. Both my children, so one's 10, one's almost 14. When they were younger, my youngest daughter drew pictures. They did this thing called Artsonia or whatever it is. And the kids, they draw in school for art class. And then they would post them online and, you get relatives. Oh, look how wonderful. She drew 3 pictures, one of which... looked like the close encounter of the Third Kind poster, the roadway, and there was a craft in the center. And then she drew a cat that had the communion eyes in it. She drew an owl that way. And these are paintings. My youngest drew the Earth from outer space. She told me this. And 3 UFOs there. And there were 3 UFOs in there. And I said, well, what's this? He goes, oh, those are aliens, and this is the Earth. And I'm like, okay, honey. And I'm like, so yes, they're probably having experiences and interactions that I'm not aware of. And this is probably why I don't sleep very well at night. But yeah, it's you just have to be able to deal with it in a little better. Just reassure them it's okay, and there could be aliens there. We don't know. We don't know what they're like. But I do think that they treat. I don't hear too many stories of people who have had experiences as children, even adults seeing children. I don't think they treat them like the adults as far as some of the testing is concerned. So I'm a feel a little bit more comfortable with that, but I still don't want them touching my kids.
Do you think that the ET phenomena with the abductions is about science? And I'll tell you the reason why. I was talking to Bob McGuire about this the other day, and he basically said if you grab the DNA from 100 different people, you can pretty much map out every person in the world. So why would the extraterrestrials continually take people, the same people, over and over again, their families, because there does seem to be lineage regarding alien abduction? It doesn't make sense. What's your thoughts?
100% sense. First of all, every time I hear about the abductions and you hear generation stories, I don't know if anybody, well, I'm going to date myself, but there used to be a program when I was younger called Mutual Life of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And you'd see them going into Africa or the Wild Kingdom, tagging a zebra. Everybody lands the helicopter, they take blood, they take semen, they take whatever they want, and they go. And they monitor that, and then they monitor the offspring. It's the same thing. But and I understand where Science Bob's going for it. If you're right, if you get about 100 people, you're going to pretty much map everybody on the planet. It's not about us. It's about them. See, these different species of aliens are here because their home planets, their home galaxy, wherever they're coming from, is virtually destroyed. They are going extinct. And the reason why they want our DNA is because it's pure DNA. There's no problems with it. There's no issues. There's no, and anything that is like maybe cancer or something of that line, they know how to get rid of that and fix it. They're trying to continue their own species. And that's why there's so many different types of aliens that are here. And that's why they continue to abduct. They continue to do experiments with creating hybrids, or what they call star children. They're trying to keep their species alive. Now, I also believe that select individuals are being given certain information to, I guess, help themselves out. If they want, to help their cause out. It doesn't help that we've polluted the planet. And I'm not a big, kumbaya type of thing, but they know what they need to keep their, the DNA, in the right realm so that these species can use it. So they're going to do whatever they need to do to get that done. And some of these people are going to be ambassadors, save the planet. They're going to give you technology to get you to a certain point, on an evolutionary scale. That's why I think they're doing it.
You don't think they are doing it for the sake of trying to map out mankind's history?
I don't think it has anything to do with mankind's history whatsoever. Maybe it's to be debated whether we were seeded or not. There's a lot of stuff that points that we could have been a seeded planet. They being whoever that species was, seeded this planet a couple different times and tried an experiment and it failed, and then they redid it over and over again. Get your towel. Like they did in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh, we'll just rebuild it again. But I just think that they're here for their own, their own self. We need to survive, and there's no gray area with any of these. It's very literal. It's 1 + 1 + 1. That's what it is. The emotions. Most of these creatures don't have that emotion. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from people. Oh, there's a galactic federation. I personally don't believe there's one. I don't think they're waiting for us to get to a certain stage and to invite us in. I don't see it. I think we are a DNA source, and for some, and no one really talks about it, we're a food source. Human mutilations. Go look into it, and that's what it is. It's really, really odd, but especially with the human mutilations, if you look those up.
Yes, that is a topic for a different night,
Yep.
though. I mean, yeah.
I'm not going to go there, but it's not pretty.
No, but there comes the balance here too, my friend, that we have a lot of people out there who are trying to say this is a threat narrative. All aliens are bad. They're coming to kill us. We need to put nukes in space. We need to get everything in order to protect our humanity and the planet Earth. And yet you have the crowd, though, on the other side. It's like, well, I've been abducted for the last 30 years, been regressed and everything, and, they healed my cancer. They have helped me out. I've had some miracles, and I can't wait to go on another flight. In fact, I'm told I'm going next Thursday.
I think that's great. I mean, there are in the pool of abductees, there are a few people or few that have had that experience. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a warmonger. I'm not saying they're evil, and I'm not saying they're great or good. I'm saying they're here to provide a purpose. I think a lot of it goes into them feeding, their survival. But I think with the creation of hybrids between the two different races, they're understanding the emotional component a little bit more. So they are a little bit more leaning towards, maybe they're not bad. Maybe they're, we should help them. And look, I have certain issues that I wish they would have fixed if they're going to abduct me for 2 hours. Please go for it. But I'm glad when you get those interactions where people like they cured my cancer. Yeah, you know what? When you help somebody, you're gonna think a little bit more favorable towards them, and it's like, yeah, go ahead, take some more blood, take some more semen, take some more eggs, go for it. But the fact of the matter is, the entire process is a very violent process. They are breaking into your house, literally taking your physical body and doing what they want with it, and then they return you. Some people can deal with it. Some people can slowly get accustomed to that interaction, and they do have experience. Maybe they say, well, can you show me something? Can you give me some information? There are other people that get downloads, and they're shown, like in the Air Force, what they do is to get you to know planes or information. They will show you a little window in a very dark room. It's really small, and they'll start flipping, boom, 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 boom. It'll look like flashes, but they're actually giving you information in a certain way. You can use it. There's a program for reading books that way, where you can just look at a little square and you read a whole book in like an hour. They know how the human body works already, and I think some people are getting information that is needed to maybe someone's helping them out, and saying, listen, we got to get them a little bit more elevated, and maybe we can work with them better. But I think the people that are fear mongers are doing that purposely to have control over the planet. I'm more on the other side. Like, I'm not a fear monger. I don't like being abducted. I definitely don't want my kids to be abducted. And I think we're going to take a let's see attitude.
Well, we have to see what's going to cause it, because in the end, we know the disclosure topic is going to get to aliens and extraterrestrials. Whether they're from space, whether they're from inner Earth, a different timeline, a different plane, a different future. Okay, there's a lot of scenarios that are on the table right now as to where these creatures are actually coming from.
Right. And you see, this is the problem. And you said timelines. See, I started studying physics when it was the birth of quantum physics, and the different universes and timelines are vast. What's taking place that we're talking right now? There's something else taking place in another timeline, and I think there are parallel existences that are taking place. It's really, really a complex thing, and we don't have much time to explain it. But it really depends on what timeline you are on and what's going to happen. It's like a yin-yang type of situation. With a lot of good, there's always a little bad. With a lot of bad, there's always a little good. I think it's the same thing in relationship to these extraterrestrials. And your timeline. Maybe they know something that's going to take place for whatever reason, and they're here to watch it. Have you ever noticed that a lot of UFO sightings are caught when volcanoes are erupting or earth changes are taking place? It's very interesting that you'll get more mass sightings in those areas, and then within a few days, there is a connection between or correlation between UFO sightings and volcanic eruptions or natural disasters, as if they know it's going to take place. Did they time travel? Or did they see it in a different timeline? So, but the big question is, how come they're not helping us? How come they didn't stop Fukushima from melting down, or Chernobyl? And that's what I always say to people, like, when hey, you want to believe there's a galactic federation? If that's what you're told or whatever, go for it. That's your thing. I have yet to find that information to be true, and in that case, I always say, well, if there's such a galactic federation and they're looking out for humans as a species, why did they allow that to take place? It's a really valid answer, question.
Well, the same thing as we switch the next half hour where we're going to get into cryptids, as we got 3 minutes to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Bryan Bowden is our guest. The same thing can be said for cryptids. Especially people who are seeing dinosaurs, these legendary large 40-foot long thunderbirds.
Yep.
Are they actually seeing it with their very eyes, or are they seeing it in a different timeline flying by?
I got an answer for you.
Hit me up.
We can get it. We can get into that.
We got 2.5 minutes.
Okay. Well, it all started with a collider in the Chicago area called Fermilab. And that was the first big collider. And magically, it was abruptly shut down. At the same time, I forgot her name, came out with the Mandela effect. So what if we were playing with stuff we didn't know anything about, and we took our timeline, here's our timeline, and we ripped it, and we ripped another timeline, and our end timeline is now overlapped and taken apart. So where we're supposed to be is actually on a different timeline now. And we got their end of the timeline. And what if they let a rip maintain in that time space, and these interdimensional beings are coming in here and making their presence known? That's what I think may be taking place at this point. And that's why if you look at the correlation between the year when they ended Fermilab and up till even now with the collider being bigger and bigger and bigger, and when they discovered the Higgs boson, have you noticed that cryptid sightings have gone up? It's the flying humanoids or creatures out of Chicago. They're exploding. You get those creatures that look like I want to say dinosaurs, but coming out of different areas, more dinosaur creatures, more creatures that look like the Rake. It's not just creepypasta. These things may exist. And I always look at it as, what's that hole up there? And they go explore and they get stuck here. And now there's two different timelines, but each of these timelines has a bit like I have this piece, but I need to be really connected to this piece. They may exist in other timelines. Can I prove it? No, I can't. The only way to prove it is to open up the timelines. But I think we're playing around with things we don't know what we're doing with them.
That makes a lot of sense. Bryan, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because when we come back, we're going to get into Dogman. We're going to get into a lot of really cool creatures coming on up here as we got Bryan Bowden for another half an hour on Spaced Out Radio. And then in the final half hour, we're going to hook up with Vancouver. We're going to take on The Shift. We have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. A really jam-packed hour number 3 here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. So stay tuned. We continue right after this. I'll be right back, bud.
You got it, brother. I'm just looking at some of the comments, which are great, by the way.
Hi, Randy Spurl.
There you go. Merle! Shadow Bear. You have no idea. I should be getting banned from Facebook once again, probably for about 2 months this time. Not that long from now. Walk the dog, smoke a cigarette, whatever it is. Thank you, Josh. I like that, Grandmaster. That was great. I'm going to spit that out. Guest's name is Bryan Bowden, the Bat Mom. I'm Bat Mom. Sorry, I'm looking up this way because I have another screen there that gives the chat. Oh, amen. Facebook and Twitter are cancer. Yeah. Paul Hollins, if you can hear me, they are banning you, even though they say that you're not. If you cannot chat on the other shows, they're cutting you out. Someone is. And that may not be the host of the show. It may be the gatekeepers that are in the chat. Tommy Chung's awesome. Targeted? I don't know. I probably have a file someplace, but targeted by who? UFOs, aliens? Who? Yeah, Facebook has been going after private messenger stuff, so they're deleting stuff from that too. Just so you know. If it doesn't go against, if it goes against their narrative. If you want to talk freely on social media, I suggest Gab. Oh. No, you know what? Usually the Adirondacks does have a lot of Bigfoot sightings, and we have a couple people, friends of our group, that are out of the Adirondacks. I think it's called Bigfoot New York State or something to that effect. It could be a migration period because it is getting warmer, and it's getting usually in the summer months with the humidity. I mean, just think about walking around with all that stuff, like the hair and stuff. Oh, I thought it was somebody there. So they may be migrating to different areas, and also a lot of times Bigfoot clans, they as a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch comes to maturity, they go get a mate. So the original family may move on, leaving that one there, and he or she is trying to find something. Love. Looking for love in all the wrong forests.
Mm-hmm.
Merle.
I don't know if Merle's still listening or not. But we leave it up there just in case. It's a tribute to
That's
Merle.
Fine. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Merle's.
There you go.
Yeah.
Merle.
Got his autograph.
That's cool.
Yep.
I'll autograph my poetry book, and I can send it to you. So it's really lyrics and poetry, but
Randy Spurl. I don't know what happened, dude, but we got you back, man. That's the main thing. We got you back.
Yeah. I think a lot of times what's going on right now is YouTube is messing around with the algorithms, and they really are looking to censor people. So, but people caught on to them dropping these channels. So what they're doing now is they're throwing some algorithms around to ban things.
All right, let's say a big thank you to Jason, VPXM ×2, Andrew, YJ, Guillermo, and Chad for the amazing super chats tonight. Hi, Logan. Thank you for the support of everybody in our chat rooms and all the veterans out there who are tuning in. We love you. Here we go, everyone, with the third and final hour kicking off right now.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that you can tune us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Barragoon. Barragoon is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Bryan Bowden. He is a researcher and experiencer out of the state of New York, and we are going to be shifting gears from UFOs and aliens over to Dogman right now, because, Bryan, this is one creature that I would not want to run into, man.
Oh, I'm not too thrilled I have run into one. I've had a better experience than a lot of people. I never wanted to believe in this creature whatsoever. I thought, oh, no, you guys are crazy werewolves. Yeah, whatever. And then you start interviewing people who have had experiences in New York State, some in Pennsylvania, and then you start meeting people that work for military. They're military people, the career, and they're telling you things off the record that they've had guard duty in some of these bases, and they've actually had to shoot at these things, and they are real, 100%. It's a fascinating creature, but if you can believe in the existence of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, which I do, then there's got to be others out there, and the Dogman is definitely real. It's different varieties of them, but most that scare the hell out of me are the ones that look like that Van Helsing werewolf, 8 feet plus tall, fangs, claws, not something you want to come across in the middle of the night, and it's actually very unnerving. All things being equal, I'd rather meet up with a Bigfoot than a Dogman. But where we are in New York State, there are areas that we go and we have our Bigfoot research in certain parts of these areas, and a lot of this is private land that borders preserves. So, and there are two different paths. You can go on one path and you're going to get a Bigfoot type of setting and tree structures and signs, the tree bends and the breaks and the snaps. And then you go to another side and you're getting a Dogman type of signs, and Dogmen are known to be their prints and what have you, the big, tri-toed print, big boys, or big boys and girls. It's an unnerving, it really is an unnerving cryptid. I'm not a fan of it. But we still do investigate them.
Now, you've had a sighting of this.
Yeah, we did. We were doing an investigation over in Thales, New York. There's a place called Letchworth Village. And Letchworth Village is 28,000 square feet. There are other groups that have been to Letchworth Village. It was, think of a sanitarium, a place to dispose of children or people with deformities, mental illnesses, babies, unwanted babies, bastard children, and so on and so forth. The unwanted of society. And they put them there. And what happened at that facility, I don't remember if it was tuberculosis or polio. One of the two, I think it was tuberculosis. They literally would take candidates from the pools of the unwanted, and they would test these experimental things on them. And a candidate for use in human beings was one that didn't kill the subject. And what they did was, just off the property, actually pretty far off, about maybe a mile away, still on their property, they just dumped bodies. So there's a massive grave with hundreds of people aged from 2 months old on up to 89, 90 years old that are buried there. So we decided to actually go to that end of it, of the investigation, and investigate it. And when you get there, you're traveling in New York down a road that has a couple of houses, but nothing special on it. And we parked over on the side of the road, and we started walking in. And as you walk down this path for a quarter of a mile, it eventually opens up. And standing in front of you, they put a monument in, which is probably about 4 feet high, about 2 feet thick. And on that plaque was some of the bodies or the people that were buried there. So I was in, ghost hunting mode. And we heard a couple of the dogs barking in the area, but nothing, out of the ordinary. And we're doing the investigation. And then every once in a while we'd start hearing this big dog. And now my buddy Al is always, when he hears the big dogs, he's thinking Dogman. We didn't see anything. We're still investigating on the ghost hunting side, and we decided to put our chair behind this big monument because it covers our backs, and if anything came out, we'd see it. It also gives us cover. So when we walked in and we were setting up to do the investigation, these kids came in on a 4Runner, like the quad, flying in, and they're looking, and eventually, they see us, and they ask us, "What are you doing here?" And we tell them, we're paranormal investigators. And they radio back, there are a couple of paranormal investigators. and we were about to ask them a question. They got out as fast as they came in, which we found very curious. Why are they in and out really quick? So we conducted the investigation, and we said, look, if these guys come back, we should stop them and ask them, have they seen anything here or heard anything? Sure, no problem. It starts getting a little bit dark. We walk back. We're walking back to the car. We're going to get something to eat and then come back and do a little bit more of a night investigation. And we've come to this point where we see a Dogman structure. Now, the difference between a Dogman structure is Bigfoot will, knock over a tree or bend a tree, twist a branch, make an X, whatever. Dogmen pull trees out. So we have a huge tree, probably 3 foot in diameter, with its roots up in the air, upside down, connected to other trees that are like umbrellaing it in. It is a very insane structure. Totally not something you would expect. And if you notice, if you've investigated these things, this is what the Dogman kind of does. It's a little bit more like, hey, we're here type of attitude. And they do have more of an attitude than Sasquatch. So we're investigating there, and I kept going deeper and deeper. And my buddy Al goes, look, I got a bad feeling about this. I think we're being drawn into something. Let's retreat for a bit. So we retreated out. We go get something to eat. We come back in, and we're there. And once again, these guys, it's darker, so we have the headlamps on. So we're walking in, and as soon as we get there, these guys fly up, and they're looking again. So we said, oh, perfect opportunity. Let's stop them. We try to stop them, and we get them to eventually pull over and say, hey, can we ask you a couple of questions? Do you see anything in this area? Big, ghosts or whatever. They said, no, we don't want to talk. They get out just as fast as they come in. Literally under 30 seconds. They're in, looking around. You can hear them. They're talking to somebody. I don't know where they are. We can't find them. And when they came back, we revealed ourselves, and they said, yeah, they're still here. We're out. And then they left. So the night gets a little bit weirder. For some reason, there is a full moon, perfect setting. I'm still in ghost hunting mode. I'm not thinking anything other than that. And I hear a really loud dog. And it sounds like a big, big dog. And my buddy's like, you hear that? I'm like, yeah, I hear that. But, there are a couple of houses there. And as we get to this point, it's getting colder. There's some mist that's forming like I don't know, maybe the hot and the cold air mixed together, and we're getting a little fog in there. And I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit too surreal. And it was getting late, and we called it quits. It's about 12 midnight. So we start walking out, and we start walking back to his car. Now, where he parked it the next time was about a quarter of the mile away from where we were, underneath a little light that looked like it was like near a path that people would go in the woods to hike or nature walks in the area. And we're walking, we're talking about it, like that was a little creepy, it was a little weird, it's cold. I happen to have to go to the bathroom, but I'm not going to urinate in a cemetery. That's disrespectful. So I figured when we get the car done, my seat in the passenger is closest to the woods. And as we're walking towards the car, we see eye shine, an amber eye shine. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Maybe there's a deer. We're walking. It ain't a deer. I'm standing where the car is. There's a 3-foot grade I'm on. It's at least 3 feet. I went down there at one point because I dropped something. It's about 3 feet, take a step down. I'm 6'1". I'm standing on a 3-foot grade, which makes me 9 foot 1 inches, if roughly. Standing opposite us on the passenger side of the car is a tremendous animal that's sitting on its haunches. It's got the pointed ears and a snout, and it just is looking at us, and its eyes are amber. And it's still. It's not moving. It's not doing... I thought it was a deer. Not a deer. Definitely a canine is sitting there. And my buddy Al's putting his stuff in the car, and I just said, hell with it. I'm going to pee in front of this thing, I'm going to show it who's boss. So I start urinating. Now, if you don't know dogs, when a dog urinates in front of another dog, that's dominant. That says, I'm the alpha, I'm the boss. And this dog is sitting there, or this what this is. Again, its eyesight and snout, where the nose is roughly just where my nose is. So sitting down, this thing is over 6 feet tall, almost 7 feet tall sitting. And as I'm going through this process and I'm urinating in front of it, my buddy Al's like, get in the car, Bri. Get in the car, Bri. I'm like, yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Get my stuff in. And I still had a couple machetes on me because I don't have a firearm. Live in New York City. Can't have them. And I think that actually helped me out and protected me at that point. At one point, this thing goes down, lowers itself in one motion, almost like a movie. It disappears. And my buddy Al is screaming, get in the damn car. At that point, I start getting goose pimples. Now, I'll tell you, on investigations, when I start getting the goose pimples, stuff is going to happen. And this thing disappeared. I got a bad vibe in the back of my head. This thing's coming for us. We got in the car and we took off. But I'm telling you what I saw. I've never met a dog in my life, and my family used to deal with show dogs. That was sitting down, was close to 7 feet tall. And this had all the characteristics of this creature, the glowingish eyes. It just had that feel about it. It was insane. And that was my real close encounter with this creature, the Dogman. What surprised me, and we were talking about it afterwards, is he agreed. Al was like, that was a Dogman, definitely a Dogman. I'm very surprised because most of the encounters that I hear of from people are very aggressive. These creatures come to your front door. They'll knock on your door. They'll knock on the back door and the front door. They want to get you outside for some reason. And I'm very shocked that I had an experience with something that didn't do a thing to me at that point. I think it's because, and you can talk to Butch about this because I think he had a similar case. They don't respect firearms. If you shot at a Dogman, most of their chests are so big that, like a moose, it would probably get lodged in their chest and it would hurt, but you're not going to kill it. But with a long blade, they know that you can slice through the same material in a second. So I think that blade itself, that the fact that it saw that it was very visible, prevented it from coming. But I think after a certain point, it must have said, well, if he thinks he's the boss, I'm going to show him who's the boss. And I think he was getting ready to come our direction. I did look out, and I did see some more movement closer to where the car was as we left. But I think we got out of there just in time. But in general, I hate Dogman cases. I mean, I'm not Butch.
No,
but I hate them.
Why do you hate them?
They're dangerous. Barring my experience with what we had with that thing, in general, these things have razor blades on their fingers. They could leap 60 feet without even thinking about it. I thoroughly believe that they also go interdimensional, like Sasquatch. Yes, I said that. They have the ability to do that. It's an innate ability. That's why you don't find any Dogman carcasses, and you don't, they disappear in an instant. They're just very aggressive when they're younger. There are stories of people having a Dogman encounter going down with a canoe in a river. They see it, and the Dogman starts swimming out to it, like, I'm going to take you out. And then they see a grayer one or a taller, like looks like it's older, kind of speaking to it, say, hey, cut it out, let's go. And I think they listen to the pack leader and they stop that approach. But the younger ones are really, really seem to be aggressive. The one thing I just can never figure out is when you have a creature like this that can easily bust through your door, right? It can come in your house and kill you. When you have a family that doesn't do anything to provoke them or hurt them, like shoot at it or whatever, it doesn't seem to have that. They have a scare counter. I think these things are smart enough to know that they can scare the hell out of humans, and they take advantage of that. But they don't come through the door for some reason. It's like a vampire. They have to have permission or whatever it is. And the only time I've ever heard of people being attacked by these things were ones that actually took shots at them. They're hunting in the woods. They're even told, they talk about mental telepathy. They heard someone say, I wouldn't do that. And the next thing you know, they're taking the shot, and then all hell breaks loose. They get out somehow, and these dogmen beat them at their house and literally rip them a new, you know what. I just don't understand why such a huge creature wouldn't be just ripping down the door. But still, they're very aggressive. I mean, you have a dog, right?
Yes.
So would you? Yeah. I mean, I had a dog that could kill me. He's sweet as sugar, but I've seen what he's like if someone tries to approach my wife when she was pregnant. He was going to rip them apart. That's that rip apart type of image, and the feeling is always in Dogman, in my opinion. And we've had debates because there's some people that said they've had positive experiences with these creatures. I'm not saying they're all evil, but they seem to be a lot more aggressive than, let's say, a Sasquatch.
Well, it's amazing what can happen when you bring a tennis ball into the forest.
Well, yeah, fetch tennis ball and some milk bones. I don't want to deal with that kind of thing that much. That's why I don't like doing those type of investigations, because one, I don't have a firearm, and two, how do you protect yourself from something like that? The whole mentality is we do have flare guns,
right?
And we will bring a flare gun. We always have. I have at least 3 different types of machetes, because there's bear, there's mountain lion. There are other things in the woods that you have to protect yourself from. And also with firearms, if you land on federal land, it doesn't matter where you are, that's a mandatory year in prison. Okay?
Yes.
So I don't need that problem, but it's, I'll take a Bigfoot even in rut over a Dogman. It's like I'm a dog guy versus a cat guy, Cats have retractable razor blades. These things are just, I think they're killing machines, to be brutally honest. Not to say that Bigfoot is like, sweetness and light. They are aggressive too, depending on where you go. Stories in the Himalayas are just atrocious what happens to some people there. These Yetis will just destroy you. I've heard stories from about the Ohio grassman being really aggressive. But I think that has to deal with people, the population, in relationship to who visits those parks or areas. More people visit national parks in the New York Adirondacks, and they're kind of like, yeah, we've dealt with you before, we'll deal with it. And Dogman, Bigfoot go on their way. But Dogmen always seem to be more aggressive.
Very true. We only have you for another 2.5 minutes here on the
Wow.
show. It's flown on by with Dogman and these types of cases. We really didn't start hearing about Dogman until the late 1980s when Linda Godfrey broke the story of the Beast of Bray Road. Yet now we're getting reports everywhere from British Columbia right diagonally down to New York. What do you think the reasoning is we're seeing so much Dogman activity?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to the colliders and experimentation. I think that the military was using, and scientists have been experimenting with colliding atoms and creating these rips in time space that are allowing some of these interdimensional beings access to our dimension. And it's just, it's curiosity, and they've come in, and some of us are food source. So I think this is why you're seeing a lot more of this stuff ramping up, and why the ability, it's not just in the US there was a collider, and it's not just in over in Switzerland area in Central Europe. They have colliders in a lot of countries, and even the smallest collider on a university scale can create a rip in time and space that allows these things the potential to be there. So I think that does explain some of it, but I also think it's just it's hunting season for them. It's life season. It's migration. That's why I don't see, it'd be one thing to hear, like, Linda Godfrey's, Dogman thing. But when you start hearing this in cultures, even Ron, the crypto guru Murphy, has mentioned that werewolves have been present in other cultures. And then you take that combined with the Dogman, which looks like a werewolf, to what you get with a skinwalker, which usually becomes a wolf and is a transforming type of thing from man to beast. Totally different. That is the only transformer, in my opinion. It's a natural, it's stories from Native Americans passed on down, and people pick it up, locals and folklore, and that's where it comes from. But I think that a lot of this has to do with us playing around with things we shouldn't be playing around with.
Brian, I want to say a big thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk some monsters with you, and this time I know we focused a lot more on the UFO and alien aspect, but you're a guy who has knowledge about everything, and we really do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Always there for you, buddy. That's what we do.
All right, Bryan Bowden, everybody. Coming up next, we're going to join Vancouver, and Shane and the Shift go right across Canada talking some UFOs. Then we are going to bring you the news wire and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio right after this. Good job, Brian.
I thank you very much.
Appreciate you staying up late.
Apparently, it's my pleasure. Apparently, I have an ego, and ego and IQ points. I was told.
Well,
yeah.
Well, when you have 10,003 podcasts,
what can I tell you?
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, buddy. Don't know how you do it.
Well, I'm headed down to Florida again in a couple of days, so if I get abducted again, I'll let you know.
Please do. All right, Brian.
You got it, brother.
Take care.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bryan Bowden, everyone. The Bryan Bowden. There he goes. Into the yonder. Into the yonder. Lunar Tina, how you doing? Where's our favorite Italian? There he is, Detailing Academy. Good to see you. Minister Elaine, do me a favor. See on the screen here, I have the comment from Filth, bookings at spacedoutradio.com. Can you hit him up, please? I'd appreciate that. Gorgeous Jean, what do you want to hit me up about? Hit me up on the topic. Yeah, Super Duke, you should have Brian on. He can talk Bigfoot, Dogman. He'd be good for your show. I had yam fries earlier with that burger. Totally did. That burger kicked the crap out of me. Oh, there's Vancouver. Hey, Vancouver.
Hello. So we should be ready to go around 36.
All right. We'll talk to you in 4 minutes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Do-do-do. 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 Guitar Talk is in 30 minutes, 27 minutes. Have I gotten a reply from NYP? Remind me who NYP is. Yes, Chad will be moving Mark to a different night. I just got to book that and go from there. New York Police? No, why would I get a call from New York Police? We'll be getting to some woo here pretty quick. It's got to be the right woo. Proper woo. All right, 27 seconds. Thank you to Jason, VPXM times 2, Andrew, Guillermo, and Chad, and YJ for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. And we will go from there. Oh, the New York Post. No, I never got anything from them. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to say that we have all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Now, at this time of the night, we always go out to Vancouver and hook up with Shane at the Shift on the Chorus Radio Network to talk some UFOs. Shane, how you doing, my friend?
Fires are going and all these things, too, with Dave Scott and spacedoutradio.com. David, are you there?
I am. Well, so far, we are surviving the forest fires up here, Shane, and everything is to the east of us at SOR headquarters. So, you know, can't find any UFOs if you can't see through the smoke clouds. That's for sure.
Well, can you, for those who aren't familiar to the show and who are hearing you for the first time, Dave Scott, let everybody know where you are, because we actually did receive 3 or 4 text messages asking about how's Dave doing with the fires. So let's reset that conversation. Let everybody know where you are and what's happening in your neck of the woods with the forest fires.
I am just outside of 100 Mile House, British Columbia, which is about a 2-hour drive north of Kamloops, about 45 minutes south of Williams Lake, 3 hours south of Prince George. So just almost at the center of British Columbia, literally on top of the mountains. And, you know, when you have a bunch of forest surrounding you, and when you live in a forest community that is surrounded by lakes and the 40-plus degree Celsius temperatures start hitting, it doesn't bode well for the forests around here. There's a lot of dry timber around that has fallen over the years that hasn't been cleaned up, you know, and it starts to burn. And so around me at this time, I believe within an hour and a half drive, there's 61 forest fires going on. The good news is there isn't any that are close by where we are at this time. The closest one that hit was today, but they got it out within a couple of hours. That would have been about 6-7 miles as the bird flies from where the studio is here. But the firefighters were pretty active on that, and the helicopters were pretty active on that. You know, the breathing sucks. When it comes down to it, the breathing sucks, but it's okay. It's very okay right now. We are safe. Thank you.
So just to get some context on that, because I do want to invite everyone to check it out. You said 45 minutes south of Williams Lake. Is that what you said?
Yes.
So if you go to firesmoke.ca, you can see there is that one big fire that is to the south and to the west. And firesmoke.ca will show you where all of that smoke has been going. So glad to hear everything's okay. And everything's going all right in your world, David. So please let us know.
Thank you.
So with a little bit of mystery and suspense, we have arrived here with an UFO conversation with Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio. I don't know what we're in for on this, Dave, so I need you to hold my hand and let us know what this update is.
Well, the update is that it has come out over the last couple of days that Daniel Sheehan, who is the lawyer for Luis Elizondo, has come out publicly with Elizondo saying that the top secret report that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago that came out, Shane, you remember that? My beautiful I told you so moment?
You were right, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's not 78 pages. It's not 178 pages. According to Daniel Sheehan, who is a prominent lawyer who literally worked on the Watergate case like 50 years ago and is now an activist and a lawyer activist in the UFO community, trying to bring forward what the government knows about UFOs. He said the top secret report is over 400 pages long. 400 pages. The public got 9 pages. And out of those 9 pages, when you get rid of the title pages, the bibliographies, the opening statements and paragraph, it was 4 pages long of information. We got 4. The government allegedly got 400. Now, the question is...
Not surprised, but here we are.
Not surprised at all. Now the question is, what is in there? What is in those reports? Because in the 4-page report, we had heard that there were 144 incidents that could not be, or that were reported on, and 143 of them were non-explainable. The one that was explainable, go figure, was a weather balloon. And now we're looking at it and seeing 400 pages. Well, this adds a new wrinkle to the entire phenomena on what could be out there and what couldn't. Eventually, this information of what is being held is going to leak out. It always leaks out. It doesn't matter where it's leaking out. But it will. So this is the first that we are hearing of a 400-page report. Luis Elizondo, over the last few days, has also come out and stated that there is a 23-minute video. He didn't say where it came from, but a 23-minute video of interaction with UFOs that he is hoping will be released. Now, the unfortunate part about that is, if that 23-minute video is released, we're not going to see 23 minutes. We are likely to see, if we're lucky, 23 seconds of a 23-minute video. But he said there is more video footage out there, and when it's going to come out, who knows? Because now the big story coming out of this, leading forward, is the Inspector General's report on what has been hidden and what is currently being hidden by the U.S. government that they're not reporting on. And that report should also exonerate Luis Elizondo as the man who used to run the ATIP program at the Pentagon. So we're going to have to see on that. We're going to also have to see if any momentum builds regarding any sort of congressional hearings regarding this subject, as a few congresspeople and senators are calling for them to find out what the United States knows about unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, interestingly enough, throughout all of this, Canada, still silent. There is nobody in Ottawa talking about this subject, not even the opposition parties, which I think they should, and I know they listen to you when we talk on this segment about this subject. I know they do because they've told me. All right? So, you got some pull there, Shane. Number one. Number two, We also heard a very large debate from the Commonwealth head over in the UK and the British government stating that they will not get into the UFO discussion like the United States, even though the opposition is pushing them to tell what they know about UFOs as what is being seen in the U.S. This has already hit the House of Lords in Great Britain. However, the defense minister there is not saying a thing, will not talk about this subject, simply refuted this subject as saying it's not important for the House to be discussing this, and therefore the conversation is over, much to the behest of the opposition over there, who would like to know what Britain's role is in UFOs and UFO research. So we got a lot of countries now talking about it. Australia recently released some files, yet here in Canada, we get nothing. Zero. And our media still is not asking our politicians, do we have any aliens in Canada?
So you sound, this is where I really want to know what this experience is for you, David. I know you invest a lot of time into this. I know that you have so many of your colleagues that invest a bunch of time, and of course your audience, has invested an awful lot of time in all of this. And when we got to the release last month of the data, you were skeptical, pessimistic, and just ready to go. I'm not going to get excited here because it's going to be edited. It's going to be a giant dud. It was a dud. When I hear you tonight, it sounds like there could be some renewed enthusiasm around all of this. What's the experience of this for the true, ufology study people?
Well, right now it's a wait-and-see approach, Shane. It's a wait-and-see approach for all of us because we knew going into this that the original report was going to be a dud. We knew that. And it was still like Christmas Day, where you're still hopeful that when you wake up in the morning that Santa Claus has brought you that fancy new toy train or bicycle instead of cords, slacks, and socks. And we got cords, slacks, and socks. Yes, I went old school there. Okay? What the heck? The mustache is coming back into style, so I could drop cords on this show, no problem. Right? So that we knew that was going to happen. We also knew, because loose lips sink ships sometimes, we also had to wait for those loose lips to start moving and mumbling. And I think that part has started with Daniel Sheehan. We do not know, we should put on record, we do not know if that 400-page report is actually true, or if that's just what he has heard, because we are hearing this secondhand. I am trying to get Daniel on the show again to talk to him about it. But when you have a lawyer who helped bring down the whole Watergate incident, you got a guy who knows what he's talking about. You got a guy who has invested the last 30, 40 years on this subject from a law perspective and a governmental perspective. He knows that he has an opportunity here with representing Luis Elizondo to open up the floodgates for what he wants, which is disclosure and congressional hearings on this subject. But we still have to take everything with a grain of salt. There's going to be a lot of junk that's thrown at people. I think that these reports have a lot of the spooks who were talking previously. It zipped them up a little bit, because they want to see what comes out of Washington, D.C. in return to this. Up here in Canada, once again, nobody is asking the questions. Therefore, the government gets a free pass on the UFO subject.
Here's a question for you, Dave. Do you think that these people are more afraid to be right or more afraid to be wrong when it comes to the existence of aliens and UFOs?
Which people? The researchers or the government?
Just, I think in general, I think everyone has some skin in the game, right? I mean, if the people who are speculating, the general public,
okay,
are they afraid to be right or are they afraid to be wrong?
I think there
are aliens and UFOs flying around.
I think from a government perspective, there's a big faction in there. I think it's split 50-50. There are those who want this to come out because let's move forward. Let's see what kind of technology they have. When you think of free energy, when you think of the end of the petroleum industry, when you think of maybe health, extending our lives, well beyond the 80 plus years that we are given here in North America, which, let's face it, life is a ripoff. It really is, if you want to get personal with it. And there's a lot of people who do not want this to come out because of the fear of the way people will act. There's a large contingent on this planet who are religious, who believe everything that comes from the sky is demonic. And there's a bunch of people who are curious about how the markets will react to this, because it could tank the markets. There's a lot of people wondering how the economy is going to flow through this. What is this going to mean between, tensions between the United States and Russia, or the United States and China, the United States and itself? There's a lot of people and a lot of questions that people are afraid of, because there's a lot of people who may be out there who, sitting there thinking, you know what, I got nothing to live. The aliens are coming. We have Armageddon starting here, and therefore I'm checking out. This is some of the worries that I'm hearing from people in the higher-ups on what they are concerned about when it comes to disclosure. The UFO world wants it out. They don't care how it comes out, which I think is wrong. They need to be able to pay attention on how it's coming out, where it's coming out, and the questions that are coming. Because right now, we're being blocked from a media standpoint of everything previous to 2004 and the United States Navy's USS Nimitz incident, where the videos of the Tic Tac Go Fast and Gimbal came out. Okay, they have forgotten about everything previous to that. They don't want to talk about Phoenix. They don't want to talk about Roswell or the Marfa Lights or the Flatwoods Monster or the crash at Kecksburg or the crash at Shag Harbor in Nova Scotia. They don't want to talk about that. They want to keep it relevant, and they want to keep it military. And that is a big issue as well, because it really seems like there's a couple of different narratives being played here. And when as well as I do, when you control the message, you can control the media, you can control everything. And that's what we're seeing.
Well, and that, it's so true. I mean, the government's job is to protect the people, and the government will make the decisions that they think is best to protect the people. It's not necessarily what could be best for everybody, or it doesn't even mean it's right, I suppose. I watched that movie, The Tomorrow War. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about aliens, but turns out in the end, spoiler alert, that they were here all along. And aside from the fact that that movie is 100% fiction, it does make you curious to wonder if, because in the movie they were looking in the last few years to see when there was a UFO that crashed. And in the storyline of the movie, turns out they'd been here for, 1,000 years or whatever, and we just didn't know it yet. So it is curious to me to think that, some of this seafaring stuff down below the ocean, maybe these things have just been going on, and we're just, as the world gets smaller with technology, we're finally catching up and seeing it more.
Well, it's something that we're going to see, and it's something that isn't going away. And that's the one thing I always say to your public is this story is not going away. It's only going to get bigger. And until the public who is listening to you, who is listening to me on a nightly basis, starts asking some major questions to their members of parliament, we're never going to get answers up here. Because Canada does have a role in this. People are seeing UFOs in Canada. Our pilots and our naval officers and Navy members are seeing objects in the sky and in the water. They just need to have the ability and the strength to come out and talk about it and put some pressure on the federal government, both the sitting parliament and those in opposition, to say, what do you know? Tell us what we know. We deserve the right to know.
Dave Scott, spacedoutradio.com. Brother, it's great to hear your voice. Thank you for the insight. And
not a problem.
Please stay safe, all right?
You take care, my friend. We're going to get to the news here. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show. When you get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the incredibly stupid. Now, this story is based here in British Columbia, but I'm sure it's happening everywhere where there is forest fires going on. If you're in a forest fire area, all right, and you have a boat and you're in a tourism place like where I live or south of me, okay, don't be an idiot and go on your boat and not allow the water bombers to pick up water or the helicopters to hover and suck up water. That is stupid. All right? The next thing is, there's a bunch of morons around who have decided that it would be really, really cool to fly drones to check out the firefighters, and the fires, to get some real interesting footage. You know what happens when drones are in the air? The planes can't go in there, which means the fire grows, and it jumps the areas that have already been hit. So this is happening in British Columbia, where they are now saying that people caught flying a drone can be fined up to $100,000 and be jailed up to a year or both. But the big issue is the police need to start handing out some major fines when it comes to boaters. Because at Kalamalka Lake in Vernon, where there's a massive fire going on, guess what? The tourist boating season continues, which means that the water bombers cannot land on the water, fill up, take off to drop it on the fire zone. Now, if you're in California where it's burning, Washington State, Oregon, or any place that you are having forest fires, don't be one of those people who's flying a drone because you want the great YouTube video of the forest fire. Don't be one of those people who gets on your boat. Oh, look, the water bombers are around. Let's sit in the middle of the lake. The fishing isn't important. Okay? Because believe it or not, there's actually people who live in that area who would like to have their homes. They would like to have their homes. Because you don't know how much it sucks when you get evacuated. It really, really sucks. So do everybody a favor. Let's have some brain tissue actually functioning when you're near a forest fire. All right? That's how they get out. That's how they're able to make sure that those fires are contained as quickly as possible and hopefully extinguished. Okay? Your trout fishing or your salmon fishing or your water skiing or your tubing or your drone flying is not as important as people's homes and livelihoods. Yet somehow, in British Columbia at least, we've forgotten to be smart and to be smart about things like that. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. But it really shows that at a time of crisis, that there's still morons out there wanting to play on their own dime. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the news. Thank you to Shane and the Shift on the Chorus Network. And of course, to Bryan Bowden for coming on in to talking some aliens and Dogman. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Everyone in our chat rooms on YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. The Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.